All right, let me ask you something. What if I told you the safest place for your money, the bank, is actually a guaranteed way to lose it? It sounds kind of crazy, right? I mean, for generations, we've all been taught the same thing. Work hard, save your money, put every penny you can in the bank. But that advice, which was solid gold for our grandparents, is just dangerously outdated today. Seriously, $100 you put in a savings account just 10 years ago, today it'll only buy you about $75 worth of stuff. So, in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly why that's happening, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
This statement right here might seem a little dramatic, but honestly, it gets right to the heart of the problem. That dollar in your bank account isn't some solid, unchanging rock of value. A better way to think about it is like a melting ice cube in your hand. The number you see on your bank statement, let's say it's $1,000, that number stays the same, but the actual substance, what that money can buy you, is constantly, quietly dripping away.
The financial world we're living in today is not the same one our parents or grandparents had to figure out. That blind trust we used to have in the dollar bill and that number on the screen, well, it's become a hidden risk. The rules of the money game have fundamentally changed, and if you're still playing by the old rules, it's a recipe for falling further and further behind, year after year.
Now this is a real eye-opener. Think of it like a time machine showing you what a single dollar bill could get you over the years. Back in the 40s, $1 gets you 20 bottles of Coke, enough for a whole party. Fast forward to the 70s, and it'll get you a decent, healthy snack. But today, you might be able to get a small coffee. The piece of paper hasn't changed, but its power has just completely collapsed.
So just how much power are we talking about? How much has it lost? Well, since the Federal Reserve was created back in 1913, the US dollar has lost, get this, about 96% of its purchasing power. I just want you to pause for a second and let that number really sink in. It means that for every dollar your great-grandparents earned and saved, you're left with the buying power of just 4 cents today. 4 cents. That is a staggering, almost unbelievable loss of wealth.
So what happened? How did we get here? What caused this massive shift? The answer really boils down to one single, pivotal year that completely changed the definition of money as we know it.
See, for decades after World War II, the US dollar was basically like a claim check for gold. Any country could, in theory, walk up and trade in 35 of their US dollars for 1 ounce of solid gold. This kept the dollar anchored to something real, something tangible. But because of heavy government spending, by the late 60s, there were way more of these dollar claim checks floating around the world than there was actual gold in the US vaults to back them up. So on a Sunday night in 1971, President Nixon got on TV and basically said, the gold window is closed, permanently. Just like that, the anchor was cut.
And in that moment, the dollar became what's known as a fiat currency. The word fiat actually comes from Latin, and it means let it be done. So in simple terms, our money has value today simply because the government says it does. It's not backed by a vault of gold anymore. It's backed by a promise. And this slide right here perfectly shows that huge change. Before 1971, your dollar was basically a receipt for something real. After 1971, it became a financial instrument whose value depends entirely on our trust in the system. And this new flexibility, well, it allowed the money supply to expand like never before. And it's what really kickstarted this era of steady, constant inflation that we live in today.
Okay, so if our money is constantly losing value, why isn't everybody, panicking? Why doesn't this feel like a 5-alarm fire every single day? Well, the answer isn't really in our wallets. It's in our heads.
This is the big question, isn't it? The reason this silent thief is so effective at stealing our wealth is because it exploits a few natural glitches in how our brains are wired. We're just not really built to easily notice this kind of slow, creeping threat.
So, the biggest trick our minds play on us is something called the money illusion. Let me give you an example. Have you ever gotten, say, a 2% raise at work and felt pretty good about it? Hey, more money. But then you look around and you notice that everything is suddenly 4% more expensive. In reality, you actually took a pay cut in terms of buying power. But our brains, they just focus on that bigger number in the paycheck. We are just wired to see the number, not what the number can actually do for us.
The other mental glitch is something called the availability heuristic. Basically, our brains pay way more attention to sudden, dramatic events. We all notice when gas prices jump 50 cents overnight. It's memorable, it's annoying, we talk about it, but we don't really register that the price of a movie ticket has slowly climbed from, say, $7 to $17 over the past decade. It happens so gradually, it just doesn't set off alarms. I remember my dad used to tell me stories about buying candy bars for a nickel, and to me, it was just a funny old story. But he was actually describing this exact trend, which he saw over his whole lifetime.
And this really gets to the biological root of it all. We evolved to think in straight lines, linearly. If I hunt for one more hour, I get a little more food. Simple. But inflation isn't a linear problem. It's an exponential one. It compounds on itself. We see the price of a coffee go from $2 to $2.10 and we just shrug. It's just a dime. We fail to truly grasp that this tiny little change, when it's compounded over 30 years, can literally cut our life savings in half.
Now, I know all of this can sound a little depressing, maybe even overwhelming, like the game is rigged against you. But here is the good news. Once you understand these new rules, you can start playing the game differently. And it all starts with one of the most important mental shifts you can possibly make with your money.
This right here is the absolute key. In an economy where cash is literally designed to lose value, the goal is no longer to just pile up the most dollars. The goal is to convert your dollars into things that hold, or even better, grow their value over time. You have to shift your mindset from being just a saver of currency to an owner of assets.
So what's an asset? Well, simply put, it's something that can either make you more money, like a rental property that pays you rent every month, or it's something that's likely to grow in value faster than inflation is eating your cash, like owning a small piece of a successful company through a stock. And why does this work? Because things like rent prices and company profits tend to rise right along with inflation, which helps protect your purchasing power.
So let's totally rethink the purpose of a savings account. It is not a wealth-building tool, period. Its real job is to provide security and quick, easy access to your money. It's a fantastic holding area for your emergency fund for sure, but as a long-term home for your wealth, oh man, it's a terrible place. It offers zero protection from that guaranteed slow leak of inflation.
So, what's a practical first step you can even think about? Well, for the cash you need to keep safe and accessible, you can at least look for options that fight back a little bit. Things like high-yield savings accounts and money market funds often pay interest rates that can help slow down that melting ice cube. Now, they probably won't beat inflation completely, but they're a much better holding cell than a traditional account earning next to nothing. Of course, this isn't financial advice. You should always do your own research, but these are very common first steps that people explore.
And really, that's the question I want to leave you with. In today's financial world, any cash that's just sleeping in an account is cash that is losing. It has to be put to work in some way, shape, or form just to preserve its power. The choice we all have is shifting from being a passive saver to becoming an active owner. The rules of money have changed, that's for sure. But now, you know how the game is played. So let me know in the comments, what's one small step you're thinking about taking to put your money to work?
Thank you for spending time with us here at the Violet Vault. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, stay focused and keep growing.